But yeah.
So joining me on the Screenlately show is Samuel Ampah. Now, what we like to do on this show is to introduce to you people who are making waves in the film and TV business. And Samuel Ampah is someone that you should get to know, not just today, but going forward, someone who you should really get to know. Now, I'm not just saying this because he's joining me on Zoom right now, or that he's even giving me a backhander to do it, because obviously we big a lot of people up on this show. And but anyway, I digress. But yeah, the reason why we're talking to Sam today is to talk about his career, about why he chose accountancy, which is not an exciting job at the best of times, but obviously, as Sam will explain to us, it has its perks, it has its benefits, and it has its advantages, especially in a business like the movies. Samuel, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Emmanuel. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us, was accountancy always the thing for you, or was there another vocation or passion that you wanted to get into?
I wouldn't say accountancy was always the thing for me at all. Like, really, it happened by chance. I'll say a lot of things contribute to me becoming an accountant and training to be an accountant. So originally I went to university to do history and politics, and that history has always been love of man, and I love politics, so I always try and keep up with it and so things like that, with the aim of becoming a lawyer. So that was always my dad's dream, that I'll become a big city lawyer. But so I did.
Most Africans wanted their children to be lawyers, because I come from a family of lawyers, famous lawyers actually in Nigeria. So how I didn't quite end up there. The thing is, there's another side of my family that are in film and TV. So for those that are thinking Anya Sigwe and are Nigerian, yes, I am related to Peace Anya Sigwe, who founded the African Movie Academy Awards. Oh, really? We are the same lineage, literally. And her brother, Charles, was one of the first presenters of children's television on the state broadcaster in Nigeria back in the 70s and 80s. NTA. So that's how far the lineage goes back.
Yeah, you got a good line of film in your life. Then that's
it is. So no pressure. But the thing is, I've always loved film and television from the time I watched Tales of the Unexpected at the age of 4, and Mummy and Daddy would kind of beat me with a whip, thinking, "Why are you watching programs like that?
Why are you not reading books? why are you not studying?"
The thing is, I did read books. I read newspapers. I read The Economist and Financial Times. I was told at the age of 4. Oh, so already that kind of creative and that kind of instinct for business has been there from an early age.
Fair play. Yeah.
You know, but law, I mean, obviously, as you know, law in film is kind of priceless in terms of...
that's I think there's a number of different factors within film that is what's outside the creative, which is very important. And law is really a big one. You need to make sure your contracts are in order, or you know, you can really get into trouble. And you can see it happen. People try and cut costs, and accountancy fees and lawyer fees are the two places where they think, oh wait, maybe we can cut costs and boil it into the screen. But you know, it's a dangerous game to go down that side of it. But yeah, it was always going to be, well, it was supposed to be law, but since I started, I realized it wasn't for me. And then I finished the GDL, and it was all about what's the next step. And I managed to get an internship with Alliotts, so the firm I'm at now. It was mainly doing sort of like AML, so anti-money laundering work and stuff like that. So sort of legal, but not really.
And what's GDL for our audience? So what was...
Oh, it's a graduate diploma in law. So it's like a conversion course that people who didn't necessarily study law do in order to go on to do the LPC. So the aim was to do the GDL, finish that, then either do the LPC or something, or become like, I've forgotten what the barrister version is, the bar or something like that. Those were the two routes where I thought when I was at university, thought I'd probably go down. I hated law. I can't describe to you how much I reading all those contracts, and it wasn't for me. Quite early, I realized it wasn't for me, but I finished the GDL. And then I went on to get my internship at Alliotts doing the AML work. And it was really at the end of the internship, there was a choice. It was either, they said they wanted me to stay, but the only way I could stay is if I trained to be an accountant. And at that time, it was a bit like, I didn't really know what to do. So if someone's offering you an opportunity to train you and to sort of like pay for your education and you've got a steady career, you know, for me, it was a no-brainer at the time. And that's where I am now, 8 years down the line.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So not even these TV shows that kind of glamorize law, that didn't convince you? I mean, do you watch any of that stuff?
So Suits, I thought my life was gonna be like Suits. So I started watching Suits before I started the GDL, thinking, yeah, I'm gonna be just like it, you know, give to the gab, have a great time at court. I went to one court sessions on immigration, and it was so depressing. And you know me, Emmanuel, I'm a guy who, you know, I like to smile, I like things quite happy.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this can't be for me. So no, Suits is a lie, and it doesn't actually turn out like that. So that's where it was.
Yikes. Because for me, one of my favorite programs is Law and Order. And just the whole Law and Order franchise. I'll give you an actual fun fact. Me and the creator of Law and Order, a guy called Dick Wolf, share the same birthday, 25th December.
Okay, it's meant to be. You need to get.
It's meant to be, isn't it? It's meant to be.
I can see you and Claire doing the episode.
Yeah, I know Claire's thought about going into law as well. I mean, as you know, Claire is a woman of many talents, so there's nothing that she won't put her mind to. So Claire, if you want to do law as well,
it's a great. I'm not going to knock it. And lawyers make good money. They work for their money, but they make good money, and it is a great role to go down. But I think, like any career, like it has to be for you, and you need to have like sort of passion for it. And it just really wasn't there for law for me. It really, and I think it came at a weird time in my life because I just lost my dad. So, and he's the one who pushed me into it. So it was a bit like, well, I've got an opportunity to maybe do something for myself now. And so I chose the first person who he offered me a job.
And how have Alliotts embraced you as a company? Talk to us about the people that work there and the culture, etc.
I love Alliotts, and I really can't. It's weird. I don't think I'd be an accountant if it wasn't for Alliotts, and that's the honest truth with it all. They've always been really good to me. The people there, the partners there, they've always been very supportive of me, and that's why I'll say I'm here today. Is the people at Alliotts, especially, you know, people in my team, people I work with, the partners and stuff like that. They've always been really, really good to me. So I owe them a lot in that respect. And they're giving me the path. You know what I mean? When you know how it is, you know, sometimes it's quite difficult to really see a path for yourself, especially in this world where there's so much you can do, but there's at the same time so little you can do. You feel like you can do, but putting me into the media team, allowing me to sort of be quite innovative and quite like creative in the way I approach things, has really given me an opportunity, and probably why I'm here today and stuff like that, to say. So I owe a lot to them. So I've got a lot of time for Alliotts. I have a lot of time for them.
And what tangible results have you seen, given that you've, like you said, you've been given that environment to be creative and innovative? In the 8 years that you've been with Alliotts, what kind of results, success stories have you seen and are able to actually share? Because I'm sure a lot of your clients are private, but in the main, what has kind of transpired as a result of your ability to be innovative and flexible, I guess, as an accountant, because accountants are rarely flexible. It's about the numbers, isn't it?
See, the thing is, I think I'll use the media industry because I think that's really where we are, what I'm doing at this moment in time, and spending a lot of my time. So we've always done a lot of film, TV and stuff like that. And one of our partners, Ian Gibbon, has always been very heavy involved in media. So maybe 5-6 years ago, they decided to go a bit more sector focused. So we got about 12 different sectors. And what's it called again? They put me into media. And since then, you've seen there's been a massive boom within the industry in terms of people like inward investment in terms of like Netflix setting up here, you know, the amount of new streaming sites, Sky, things like that, they've really taken off. And being able to be part of that team has allowed me to, I think, in a way, bring people who maybe not have, like, I like to specialize in sort of emerging talents, diverse, different stories and things like that. And the firm has really allowed me to really take that by the horns and really help people as well as do my job. And that for me is really important. I think that being able to know that this isn't just, we're going to target a certain group of people. They've really allowed me to, you know, work with different people who maybe won't necessarily have known the firm or the firm would have known about. You know, I've been able to go and I've done a number of different talks with people in Scotland. You know, I've done talks with, you know, all around the UK. And to an extent, that's what, you know, how we met to an extent. So I've been able to bring you, let you meet the partners, meet the team and stuff like that. Things like
remind me how we met, because I've got baby brain now. Remind me how we met, because it's
so how we met is a bit odd. So I messaged you on LinkedIn because I saw the British Urban Film Festival.
right.
So I saw that what you're doing there, and you know, things like that is really what I aspire to sort of help and add value where I can. So I messaged you on LinkedIn and said, yeah, introduce myself, and you're kind enough to reply. And then since then, and maybe that was probably about 4 years ago, you know, it's been a while.
Yes, it has. Yes,
it's been a while. So since then, we've been able to sort of help each other where we can, and really develop a relationship. And that's the sort of, I'll say, success Alliotts allows me to do. You know, other law firms maybe a bit more, not law firms, accountancy firms, maybe a little bit more tight with who you're talking to, not necessarily, and the person, like, for example, I'm not a partner. So they're giving me sort of attributes that normally just partners would do.
right.
You need to go out and go and do them. And, you know, that's a real confidence boost because, you know, I'm someone who's very ambitious. I hope to one day be up there, and I'm gaining the skills to allow me to be successful in that role at a very young age. And that's great.
I was going to say, so the end goal is to be a partner at Alliotts, presumably.
Yeah, I'd love to. I hope they'll one day, you know, I'll have the, the skills. It's not easy. So, you know, obviously, hopefully one day I'll have the opportunity to. And that'll be nice. That'll be really nice. But, you know, there's always other avenues, you know. I'm grateful to Alliotts, but, you know, if anything ever came, the situation where I had to go off and do something, it'll always be a part of my life. You know, it'll always be the reason why whatever I go on to do, I've done. But, you know, the end goal will hopefully be Alliotts, but the world's a funny place and life is a funny place.
It is. It's in constant flux, as you know.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about Bath and the British Urban Film Festival, which obviously I founded 17 years ago now, and you talk about diversity and diverse clients. So how vast would you say is your network in relation to clients, filmmakers, above the line talent, etc., etc.? How vast is that, and how are you able to cultivate that kind of network of potential clients, and just kind of generally just to find out what's happening on the scene here in the UK?
I think so. I like to think that it is quite vast. I've been doing it for a while, trying to meet people in the right places, be in the right organizations, talk to the right people. Right now, most of our clients are sort of production companies. So a lot of the people who I work with are either producing a film, wanting to produce a film, or they're moving along those lines. So that's a lot of my time's getting taken up in terms of working with producers, filmmakers, stuff like that. We don't really act for many actors because that's more sort of personal tax and stuff like that. But we do have some directors, and we got some sort of people who do sort of music for films. So we've got a lot of our work is in those fields. So it's mainly like company-based people. So that's what we've done there. How I say diverse it is it's probably better than other accountancy firms, but we still got a long way to go. Along with the industry, the industry's got a long way to go in terms of making it really diverse, and to a point where you don't even think that, you know what I mean, it's so diverse that you don't really even question it. Do you know what I mean? That's where we need to get to. And I think Alliotts, we're doing our best to get there. There's a lot of ways in which we're trying to attract sort of emerging talent, diverse talent, and get them onto our books quite early and really guide them. Because, you know, the financial side of film isn't easy to understand. And it's not like any other sort of industry in the terms of how you raise money, where and how things like you make profit, like little things like profit and stuff like that. It's not like a manufacturing company might just have a cost plus, or it's very complicated. So it's really about education, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure the education's there at a very early stage in people's careers, to a point where they don't even think about it when they're 10, 20 years into it. It's all in plan. They've met their goals. They're able to really, I think the word is like, sort of have wealth in terms of their careers and the money that they've got. So that's what I think we need to do. That's our overall game. That's my overall aim, is to get people quite young, early in their careers, and really push them to a point where, they're really making the money that they want. And it's not just about having the film on a big screen just the once. It's multiple. You need to keep them going, keep them coming up with ideas. And that's what we're dealing with.
I mean, it's like they're saying the adage, it's not about the destination, it's actually the journey that's always sweet. And obviously with what you're talking about and the education, in your view, I guess in the 8 years you've been at Alliotts, and just kind of in general, for want of a better phrase, how educated are the UK's kind of filmmakers in terms of producers and people that are trying to venture into that space? How up are we on the film business and the business of film?
I think it needs to be done better. I think the UK, we got the UK tax credit. I think, like, before you even start thinking of like producing a film, you should know about the tax credit. And too many producers, I think, don't know enough about the tax credit and the way in which they can help produce a film. I'm getting people who have probably made shorts, gone on to features, and you mentioned tax credit, and like, oh, what's that? That's not good. We need to do better in that respect, because it's so good. It's probably one of the best in the world, the UK tax credit, and it's the reason why the UK is doing so well at this moment in time. So
how important is the tax credit to people that are not aware of it and kind of listening?
I think it's probably one of the most important parts of financing film. I think if you're not thinking about the tax credit when you're coming up with your schedule, when you're trying to think of your idea, you're not really doing it properly. And I'm not even just talking about just focusing on the UK tax credit. I'm talking about other areas that can have tax credits. Yes, say for example, you want to shoot in a sunny beach-like area, and that's part of the script. You should be thinking, okay, which tax credits can I use in order to finance this? Because the more tax credits you use, they're not all as easy as the UK to access, but you can access them. The more tax credits you use, the less money you got to raise. So that's less risk for an investor. If okay, I'm going to use maybe Malta's tax credit, I need some sort of landscape like Ireland, so I'll try and see if I can shoot in Ireland. Like, little things like that is really important to getting your film eventually made. And actually, what it also does is it shows investors that you know what you're talking about. You're not just here to ask for 20 million, and they're like, how am I going to get this 20 million back? And you're just like, well, I don't know. The tax credit could be a way in which, they can recoup some money, So it's really important that things like that are taught at a very, very young age, early stage of people's careers. And just
how easy is it to raise tax credits? Do you raise it at the start? Because I'm sure people listening to this probably got their pens and papers.
Yeah,
right.
I hope so. No, so tax credit in the UK is done on spend. So when you start shooting your film, so let me go back a step. So let's say you've got a script, you've got a budget, you've got a schedule, and maybe you've got some actors that you're going to bring involved. So what happens here, and they're UK based. What happens then is you do a BFI application, and the BFI application is a 32-point application, but you only need 18 points. and it's split into 4 sections. Section A looks at really what is it an English film in terms of, is it in the language English? Are the characters English? Not English, sorry, British.
Yeah,
British and
cultural
EEA.
test, isn't it?
Yeah, British and EEA. So it looks at things like that. Section B will look at the way in which sort of you're promoting diversity within, how you're showing British diversity, British culture and stuff like that. If you then, you get your points in A, you can get all 18 points in A, so you can stop there. But then some people, it's not always possible. So that's when you go into B, C, and D. C and D looks at where you're doing, so C in particular looks at where you're doing things like your post-production and stuff like that. So if you're doing that in the UK, you can get points there, stuff like that. And then D looks at who's the director, are they British? The actors, are they British? And stuff like that. So once you've done that, then hopefully you get the 18 points, then you can get something called the interim certificate or final certificate. The interim certificate is when you haven't finished the film. So you can then apply basically through a company, all of this is through a company, and it has to be the company that is producing the film. When you do your accounts, you can then apply for like a rebate on the cost that you spent. And that is the easiest way I say is 20% of core expenditure. But the actual calculation is like 80% of 100%, but it comes down to 20. The best way to sort of budget for it is to say 20% of UK cost. That's the easiest way to do it. And then you can get that back in a rebate, and that's actually physical cash. That's cash that comes in, that will come into your bank or come as a check. If you're in a fortunate position of making profit, then it will reduce your corporation tax to a point where you probably won't even pay any. So things like that is really, really important. These are ways in which you can get money into your company. And I think we need to know better about it and put a deeper conversation with your accountant or whoever to really understand it before you go flying out there and try and produce a film.
Now, there's so many things we can talk about here, and I know this is a 2-hour show. We've got other guests to come on, but there's so many questions I just want to get off. So, for example, when you hear the word accountant, you get paid, you get charged by the hour. So it's like most people decide to become accountants themselves. What would you advise with regards to getting a good accountant?
I think getting a good accountant is really, I'm just talking about the media and TV, like media industry and stuff like that. I think it's really important to get a specialist accountant in that industry because, like I said to you, it's not like any other industry in the way in which it works. Obviously, there's some similarities, but it's very different at the same time. So it's really important you get a specialist, an accountancy firm, and you get in as early as possible, because then they can guide you in certain areas that, if you're a film producer, you're not necessarily the best with numbers, or you're not necessarily very business minded. So a good accountant, and as well a good lawyer, can allow you to concentrate on what you do best, which is the creative side, without you worrying about, oh my God, do I need to start paying VAT? When do I get VAT registered? No, a good accountant will tell you that. It'll explain what a tax credit is at a very early stage, so you can factor that into when you're producing or making your script, or coming up with your schedule, looking at locations. So it's really important you get a specialist in early, and it is a cost. What isn't? But a good accountant will add value, and that can be the difference between you making a film and your film failing. Yeah.
Now, there was a time when you hear of tax credits in film, you think of SEIS, EIS, and I know obviously I've been in the industry quite a while, and I know a lot of filmmakers that were able to tap into that. It was like a license to print money, and obviously the pandemic hit. Then you had the coronavirus scheme, which affected the whole industry at large. Talk to me about how significant the SEIS and EIS scheme was for filmmakers and producers, and since the pandemic, what have been the impacts of those schemes, and the fact that SEIS and EIS is not quite as useful for filmmakers or producers right now?
So the change in SCIS and EIS happened a bit before the pandemic.
Why was that, incidentally?
So the thing with SCIS and EIS is that the main is big, but I'll give you two quite generally, is that HMRC didn't see that investing in sort of a script. Let's say you open up a production company and you just want to make one film. That's not risky enough. There's no longevity in the scheme, and the scheme is there for, to put longevity into businesses. People invest in your company with a view that 10 years time, then they can realize their investment. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and I won't go into too much detail because probably bore your listeners, and it's just, but that's the general. It wasn't risky enough. It's not gone away, but what it wants producers and filmmakers to be thinking is more long term. It's not only about the script in front of you or the 5 scripts in front of you. It's about now building a real sustainable business. It's about if you have got a film production company, what's your long-term aim? Do you want to bring editors in-house? Do you want to bring writers in-house? Do you want to hire people? Do you want to build an office? It's not about the script itself, it's about the business. And it's actually a mindset I think filmmakers in general need to realize and sort of move towards more. There's a guy here I heard, and I forget his name, something Ferrari, he says film entrepreneur. And that's what filmmakers need to be. They need to be film entrepreneurs. This is not just about the script in front of you. You're trying to build a sustainable business that hopefully that in retirement, you can retire with. And there's too many filmmakers that only think about, and there's probably reasons for it. They only think about the script that they're making, or they're only thinking about trying to get this certain thing off the road. And that's not really what business is about. Business is about sustainability. Business is about, making long-term profits. And especially if you get investors involved, these people want to realize they want to make their money back. Even though the SCIS scheme and EIS scheme gives them sort of tax breaks that they can mitigate against any losses, or if the company fails, it's not the point. They're not here to, the H1C aren't just out here trying to give people money or give them tax breaks. They want to bring business into the UK. They want entrepreneurs and small businesses to thrive. And that's what the problem was with film industry initially and SCIS and EIS. This wasn't risky enough. It wasn't long-term thinking enough. But there's a lot of filmmakers, and we're seeing 1 or 2 now getting it. We've got a couple of clients who have got their advanced assurance because they're thinking more long-term, they're thinking more business-like. And that's, the industry in itself needs to move towards that. Obviously, once you raise this money, it's quite a small percentage that HMRC will allow you to then put into making the film, because the majority of it needs to be into a business, your business, rather than just into like producing a film. But there is a percentage that you can then move from your investment into making a film. But it just needs to be more long-term thinking than the way in which people were using it, basically.
So I'm fascinated to know about these clients, obviously without going into too much detail. How are they able to think long-term post-pandemic when everything is so volatile?
But this is the best, it is volatile, but that's why the SES scheme and ES scheme is there. It is because a small business, the percentage of failures is quite high. That's why they want to give people who invest in these businesses some sort of tax break, just because it's such a risky game. But the film industry and the TV industry and stuff like that, technically there's been no better time to be in this industry. Do you know?
And we've seen that in the pandemic, the industry's been very robust with streaming, etc.
It was one of the first to start back up. They had the restart scheme and stuff like that. And the TV, the pandemic done wonders for this industry, because people were at home, people wanted content, people got a thirst for it. I know Netflix's subscriptions have dropped recently, but they were very, very high. Everyone was signed up to Netflix, so there was an opportunity there for filmmakers and stuff like that. Though it's not easy, because you know, the independent market's been squeezed a bit. You know, there's less, because of the changes in the EIS scheme and SAS scheme, there's less people wanting to put their personal funds into, you know, these into these companies. But there is an opportunity there if you manage to get an investor, or you manage to get, you know, someone like Netflix who will, Netflix, Sky, Amazon, Apple, who will put money into your film. You know, that's a really good thing. And there is that opportunity. And these people, these streamers, commissioners, they really need content. You know, you look at Netflix, they're putting in new things every day. They got to get that from somewhere. So why can't it be you?
And as we start to wrap this up, because I'm conscious that we could go on forever. We've not even talked about Cannes yet. But talk to me about Netflix. What's your take on the kind of the drama, pardon the pun, or pun intended, should I say, that's going on at Netflix with regards to their projections and how it's all kind of panning out at the moment?
So my thing with Netflix is that there's a couple of things with it. I think one of the main things is that one, they're like, if you look at their sort of like showcase films, you know, they're big films. They spend a lot of money on these films. They spend a lot of money, and I personally believe that they can save money in certain areas, and those areas could be in the amount of money that they're spending on certain productions. So my thing is, if you look at it, to make a good film doesn't take a crazy, you don't need to spend 150 million to make a good film. You know, if you look at things like Coda, it was on Apple.
That's right.
Yeah. I heard the budget was 10 million. That won an Oscar. You know, not all, obviously the script lends to the budget. You know, you can't make a Marvel movie with 10 million. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It just doesn't work like that. But you can save costs in things like you do, like The Irishman, I heard cost over 100 million. It was a great film, it was a good film, but you know.
Yeah, The Harder They Fall was touching those figures as well.
Yeah. Again, really good film. I'm not gonna knock Netflix. I actually think Netflix have really upped their game in terms of the films that they produce and the quality of these films and how how entertaining they are. I think in recent years, they've really upped their game. But you know, when your balance sheet isn't looking so good, you got to cut costs somewhere. And like I said, the value of a script isn't necessarily in the budget, but in the story. And I think Netflix will go down that route. Also, a lot of people won't like me saying this, but you know, it's too easy to share your Netflix with other people. You know, in a way, and
I'm saying nothing.
Funny. Yeah. I'm not going to say that. I talk a lot, but I'm not going to. But it's too easy. And that costs a lot of money. You know, they're losing a lot of money by the fact that I would love to see the numbers of people who actually don't pay for Netflix, but got Netflix. You know, so things like that, it doesn't help. They'll figure it out. Because Netflix, you know, companies like Netflix, you will like to think they're too big to fail, if in a way, and actually they're an important part of our society now. You know, if we lost Netflix, God, I don't know what I'll do most evenings. So you know, they'll be okay, but they just need to figure a way in which they can then get people to pay for their product, a bit like the way in which I think Spotify have done really well. They started getting a lot more people who actually pay for the product, and then also maybe look at how they can bring the cost of some of their flagship films down a bit. Just a bit. It doesn't need to be like just down.
Well, the argument is obviously Netflix were kind of one of the first ones to go all in on original content. Obviously, when they were starting out, they had content libraries from all the other legacy broadcasters who have now woken up, I guess, and they've created their own streamers, taking their own content back. And then what you're left with is every streamer, each to their own, really, kind of putting out their own stuff. And obviously with the legacy broadcasters, that word legacy is a key, because with legacy comes that audience from before. And the fact that, say with Bel-Air, for example, which was one of the biggest hits on Peacock. Obviously, that came from the legacy of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which was on free-to-air on NBC in the 90s. And obviously, that was the launch pad for a certain Will Smith. So, you know,
I agree.
It's that legacy that's kind of allowed this current version of Bel Air to be successful on a streamer like Peacock, which could have been on Netflix if it wasn't for the fact that all the legacy broadcasters woke up to kind of the model that Netflix invented.
They definitely have. You know, you look at Disney, for example, they took everything. They're like, all right, well, you're doing really well. We're going to do our own thing and we're going to do it well. So there is that. But people like new stuff.
Disney's interesting as well because, like Amazon, the streaming is not the be all and the end all because they've got the theme parks, they've got the cartoons, they've got this, that, and the third. As my wife would always say, that's her favorite phrase.
You know, Apple TV. You know,
Apple,
the
yes.
stream isn't their only source of income.
So how did Netflix counter that? Because at one point, Netflix were going to buy cinemas and theaters, which I think would be the perfect strategy. But they never ended up doing that for whatever reason. And now they're thinking of bringing ads onto Netflix. And people are kind of thinking, isn't this what cable was like with HBO, etc.? It's like,
yeah, but then, you know,
the more things change, the more things stay the same, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but then if you're not willing to pay for Netflix, but you want Netflix, you have to watch the ads. You know, that's just the game. And then maybe that will encourage more people to then be like, you know what, can't be dealing with this washing machine advert. Let me just pay for Netflix, you know. But there's also a bigger story in terms of there's a lot of streaming sites and people can't afford them all. Sure. And this is a personal issue for me, is if you see my what's it called again? My bills, my monthly bills, it goes mortgage, TV, like, you know, like, you know, I spend a lot of money on it, and it's not sustainable for a lot of people. So there needs to be a way in which, I haven't got an answer for this, and I have been thinking about it, but there needs to be a way in which they can all just come together. It's a bit like how cable used to be, you know, because it's just not sustainable, and that's what the issue Netflix are facing now. We're going through a crisis right now. You know, people haven't got the money that they used to have. You know, the world's opened up again, you know, so people haven't got the surplus funds that they used to have that they can input into paying for a subscription. So, but people still want to watch TV. So why not ads? I don't think people will be that. People watch YouTube, and not everyone pays for YouTube Premiere or whatever. I don't know if it's called that, but you know, the YouTube subscription site.
The originals,
people still watch it. So I don't think that's a terrible idea, you know. The cinemas, I think, I'm not sure. I don't know how much people are willing. I think people who love cinema, and they will go out there and they'll go and watch a film in the cinema. But I question how much the younger audience really still got the love for cinema that I guess we had when we were growing up.
So just finally, let's talk about Cannes, because that whole kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I've had a brain freeze. So basically what you're talking about with cinema, you know, kind of the romantics kind of love cinema because you can't get an atmosphere on a streamer. So you can't beat that. And obviously with Netflix and Cannes Film Festival, there was a lot of kerfuffle a couple of years ago with regards to what is the definition of theatrical. And it really got brutal at one point where they weren't allowing Netflix to show films at the Cannes Film Festival. What does Cannes mean to you?
Cannes is probably one of the most important periods of the year for me. It really is. I'm not even talking about going out to watch films or anything like that, because actually, I don't think I've been able to really watch a film every time I've gone to Cannes. You know, but for business, it's really, really important for the firm and for the industry. I think it's one of the only real examples in which you can get everyone in one place. You know how hard it is to like get a meeting with someone. You know, everyone's busy, but everyone goes to Cannes, and then that's a real opportunity to either go out there to sell a film or to get distribution or find a financier, find a producer, director, stuff like that. It's one time when I think, especially Europe, we're all in one. Actually, I'd say that it's disjustice to America because a lot of Americans go out there as well, and Indians, and you know, there's a lot of people, and it's so important, and it's a really important factor. That's why the last 2 years have been, I think, so difficult in terms of the industry, because Cannes hasn't been in person. That's why I think this year is very, very big.
So on that note, look forward to catching up with you.
Definitely.
Post Cannes and everything. And thank you very much for your time.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Manuel. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
I'm glad we're able to cut it down, because we could have taken over the whole show. And like I said, we've got other guests.
There's a lot to talk about. It's an exciting time.
I know. But it's great to hear your personal story and kind of your take on the film business. And I'm sure people that have been listening have been able to take your counsel. We didn't even talk about your trustee stuff.
Yeah, we didn't talk about my youth.
We'll get you back. We'll get you back on the show.
Thank you. Yeah. It'll be all about
joining us.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, Manuel. Thanks for having us.